In this episode we discuss HDR, high dynamic range. What I'm going to do in this episode is explain exactly what HDR is. We'll go out, take a few images, compare your normal image towards a HDR image, and after we've done all that process, I'll take you into the post and show you how it's all put together. So we'll go and find a location and start shooting in HDR. Right, so what I've got here is like one of the old offices, and what you see remaining is the old toilets, probably washroom and a fireplace here. But there's just a lot of weird colours here, you know, a lot of grey, slate grey, red bricks. Right behind this you got this lone tree sticking behind it. Then you got this incline slope coming down here, but it also it leads your line right to the top. Plus on the edges you've got these little lone trees sticking out. So yeah, I'm gonna set up for your normal exposure, which is not bracketed. I won't need a filter on this. I'm going to focus in there right to the fireplace, which is about the third way in. ISO 100 f16 at a 40th of a second. Yeah, that's fine like that. No need for filters. It's quite dark. Right, we're going to do the same thing again by bracketing it. So I go to menu, I go to my exposure compensation, set it there. I want to go, I want my normal exposure, I want 2 stops overexposed and 2 stops underexposed. So I set it up on this. Same settings again. So why have I HDR on this one? Well, on the side of this image you've got a lot of shadow, which is okay because there's a lone tree sticking out on that and the sun's sort of lighting that up. But by HDR it's going to pick up all the green moss that's on the side of the walls there. So yeah, you'll be able to see the difference in the images anyway. So with your normal exposure, obviously you'd have to work bringing out a bit of the shadows on the slate rocks here and there, on the wall and all that. But the problem with that, sometimes you might get a bit of noise on it. And not only that, it depends on how, if you make prints, obviously by bracketing you're going to be able to do bigger prints because the quality will be better. So yeah, that's my first HDR shot, and you'll be able to compare now your normal exposure shot and a HDR exposure shot. So HDR, high dynamic range. It's a measurement of the brightest light and the darkest part of an image, and we usually measure this by f-stops. So high dynamic range, it makes an image look more true to life. Your eye probably sees about 15 stops of light. Your normal DSLR camera is about 12 stops of light. Obviously now the camera's getting better and they've got a better dynamic range, but my DSLR is around 10 to 12 stops of light. So by using HDR I'm getting a much more true to life image. And what HDR is say we're using 3 separate images, we'll have your normal exposure, and then we'll probably highlight an image by overexposing it so it picks up all the more or less all the dark edges or the dark parts of an image, and then we'll underexpose an image which is a lot darker, which by underexposing sometimes we get a better sky and it works better. So what we do then is we in post we'll put them 3 images together and we'll get a nice balanced image of how that image looks. Now right, for example, now say I take an image of what's behind me here, the steps going up to here, and you got all that there. I wouldn't take an image now because it's just blue skies. I don't like blue skies. But for example now, if I took an image, I'd set the camera up here. If I wasn't doing HDR, I'd put a filter on to darken the sky there, to sort of, by using filters, balancing the image, and then you'd have a shot there. And that's that. But sometimes when you go to post with one image and you want to say pull out some shadows, say we've got some shadows here on the side here, we want to pull out shadows and all that, sometimes it can be prone to a lot of noise because it's such a, well, it's a lower resolution file than a HDR. So if I did this by HDR, it's a bigger file and it'll let me have more choices, more editing choices of, you know, editing. So yeah, so basically that's the idea of HDR. Now what I'll do is go more around the quarry, look for places with shadow and highlights, and sort of explain and take you through it, camera settings and how it works. This might be a good example here of HDR. So I'm gonna sort my composition here. I'm looking at these steps at the right of the frame, and they sort of lead your eye right down, and I think the focal point here is that tree and where this old building used to be at the bottom. So the idea is these steps lead are a leading line to that tree. What I'm going to do here, I'll take a normal image to show you what it's like, and then I'm going to do a bracketed image on this and compare the two on this example. A lot of stuff going on in this image, and this has a lot big dynamic range as a shot. What I've got is a nice wide shot. Just at the bottom here where it slopes down, you've got a lone tree sticking out. You've got this group of like a miniature woodlands in the bottom there. You've got a derelict building here on the left of the frame, and like a steep slope coming down. And then your eye is just pulled to that path that zigzags up the mountain. You've got this hut on the top there. You've got this mountain range here and Snowdon right in the back of the view. Now I'm going for my normal image here, which is ISO 100 f16 at a 50th of a second. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a filter on just to bring down the sky, because the sky is brighter than the land. So I've put an ND6 soft grad just to bring down that blue in the sky there. So now then I'm going to take my first shot on this image. What we're going to do now is take these images home, put them in post, show you how I edit them. Yeah, and then that's it. HDR. Right, so I've opened these images now in a program called Photomatics. I've got my normal exposure, my overexposed exposure and my underexposed exposure. Now I select these three and press OK, and then align to HDR. What I'm using here is the software called Photomatics, which I find is probably one of the best for blending HDR images. So what it's doing at the moment is just blending them three images together. So you now notice here we've got the image, and that's a balanced image of the image. On the right of the screen you got all these different presets, these horrible HDR images here, which I never used, but maybe some people like it, I don't. At the bottom here you got different monochrome presets. So anyway, yeah, I always use the balance, nothing else. Just all I want is a balance of the image. So I press apply. Here you can do some tweaks, like you know, adjust the black clips, white clips, the color temperature, but it seems to be okay. Or the saturation, I'll turn it down a bit there, and the strength of the HDR. When you're happy, just click apply and it'll apply those settings for you. So there you go, that's my HDR image. So when you're done, just click on done. You can adjust color and sharpening in there. So I'm finished, I'm going to press done. I'm going to go to file, save as, and just save that into whatever folder you wish. Then from there, I usually go into Lightroom and finish off the edit there. Right, so what I've done, I brought that image into Lightroom. I'll just hit the develop. I've already done some editing. I've warmed the image up just a little bit. Add some contrast. With the whites and blacks, I press down on the Alt key just to adjust there. I put some magenting on it already. With the colour, I think there's too much blue in the sky there. I'll just bring that down. And that's the aqua, don't want that one. Something like that. With the little plants here, I've just highlighted them there, just so I can bring the exposure up a bit on them little things there, and just bring them in nicely. Bit of contrast, clarity on them, and some saturation. just to give them a little more pop. I've also done that method. I've done the same method here on the side here. I've sort of brought some more exposure on the rocks there. I've adjusted the colour, the greens and all that. So that's pretty much it really. This doesn't really need much doing to it. I've also lens corrections here. I've done enable the profile corrections and remove any chromatic aberration. So yeah, that's basically it. So when I'm done with it, I've also removed all the dust spots from the image. So there you are, that's it. I export it, job done. So that's it, a quick guide on how I edit HDR. Obviously some other images need a bit more work, but this is pretty straightforward sort of image. There's not too much to do on it really, just more popping out things like the plants at the bottom here, bringing that out more colour on here, sharpening the bolts in here just to get a sharper image, and that's it really. So I hope you found this episode helpful on HDR. This image I took same time in the quarry, so I'll leave the final image with you. So until next time, thanks for watching and bye.